on behalf of the entire Huspy team, we're thrilled to have you here for our inaugural International Women's Day event, or as we at Huspy like to call it, #WomenOwned. Now, before we get started, I do have a little question for the room. How many of you here have considered buying a home in the last 12 months? A little show of hands. Amazing. And for those that had their hands up, how realistic is it that you might achieve this goal in the next 6 months? Oh, we've got a couple. Congratulations in advance. Now, that wasn't out of sheer curiosity or to break the ice. That was actually because that's the type of data that's really spurred on this idea to host #WomenOwned today. Because in Dubai, in the last 2 years, there has been a 50% uplift in the amount of female property investors. Yes? What? Yay to women owning homes. And not only that, but the amount of registered female real estate brokers is at about 35% currently in Dubai. So then we got to thinking, how can we as a prop tech that are here to disrupt and hopefully improve the home buying ecosystem, how can we further open up the space, support, and also bring to light the role of women when it comes to the home buying process, whether that be a home buyer or a real estate agent or a mortgage broker, or also the women that work in the many banks that we have here in the UAE. And most importantly, how do we open up a space and begin to discuss the issues, the opportunities that women face here, not only in owning property, but also in owning businesses, having leadership roles in companies, and hopefully owning at life. With that in mind, and talking about all the good things that we at Huspy would love to accomplish, I would love to bring to the stage CEO and co-founder of Huspy, Jad Antoon.
Cool. This is out of my comfort zone, by the way. I don't like to speak on stage. Thanks everyone for coming. On behalf of everyone at Huspy, I would love to welcome you. This is your home. Some of the team members is here. Hopefully next year I'll be on stage. Mainly the ladies in the back talking. Mainly I just want to give you a quick brief about the company, and I want to let the ladies shine today. So in Huspy, we're a prop tech company. We're 2 years and a half old, so we launched in August 2020, so we're fairly new. Everything that you see around you is 2 years and a half in years. So we're the leading prop tech company in MENA, and to what I know in Europe also. We're facilitating billions of dollars on our platforms. We have operations in 2 markets, the UAE and Spain, and the mission that we have people is to facilitate the transaction end-to-end, starting from having control over the search element with verification, to the control of the visit, making an offer on the platform, giving the financing, and then closing both of transactions on behalf of the user. I'm gonna let the ladies talk today. First, thank you, Karen, for being here. I know you're super busy. We know Karen's been a year. She's also kind enough to believe in Huspy, and has been investor for almost a year, give or take. And now, nice to meet you. Also, I think it's the first time we meet. And Ana, I think people know how I feel about Ana. She's our superwoman in Huspy. Ana is responsible of 80% of the revenues of the business, so all the lights and so forth are generating to Ana. Not anymore in the past few weeks because you're taking the next big challenge today, but the best people go to the most complex problems. So thanks for coming, and ladies in the back, next year we need a bigger panel to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Jad. So today's event is all about celebrating women, and I think there is no bigger or better powerhouse lineup that we could have on this stage today. And each of them have succeeded and continue to succeed in the industries that they come from. And without further ado, let's get this show on the road. And I would love to introduce our panelists onto the stage. So first up, we have General Manager of Real Estate at Huspy, Ana Monteiro. Following suit, we have the co-founder of Mental Health AE and also the founder of Baytuki, Latifa Bin Haider. And finally, we have co-founder of KE Partners and founder of Karen Wazen Eyewear, Karen Wazen. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for attending today and being part of this panel. I think let's break the ice a little. I would love for myself and, of course, everyone in this room to feel a little bit more closer to you all and understand the journeys that you had so far. So it would be an absolutely amazing honor if each of you could give a little short, brief introduction into your journey so far in your careers and where you've come from and where you are now. So I'd love to start with you, Karen.
Hi, everyone. I have to say, by the way, this is my second time here, and those 2 times, I felt such positive energy, and I'm feeling this exact same way today. So, great way to start our weekend. I'm Karen Wazen. I am a mother. I'm a wife. My husband's here as well. I am a digital entrepreneur and also an investor. I started my journey on social media years back when I was communicating with a community of just friends and family. Very organically, this community grew to over 14 million across social media platforms, and it's been an incredible journey since. I would say that, through my experience with working with brands and with a passion that I had for sunglasses, I saw an opportunity to, start my own business and my own brand. And today, Karen Wazen Eyewear is stocked with over 50 stores worldwide. And I'm very proud of this. Thank you. Last year, my husband and I launched Key Partners, which is a family investment office. And we really believed in entrepreneurs and ideas, but most importantly, in people. People that will, disrupt, people that will make a change. And Huspy and Jad, I have to say, we really believed in you, my husband and I, and your vision. And I think it's super incredible what you've built, and we're super proud to be a part of your journey. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you for being here with us today. Of course, Ana, please take over.
Oh, you have a mic? Is this working? Oh my God, now I know how you feel, Jad, with this microphone. Okay, so first of all, I'm very, very flattered to be here side by side with these 2 super women. I even asked the girls if I deserve to be here today in this panel. I feel very flattered. But a little bit about me and my story. I'm from Brazil, and I come from a very simple family in Brazil. So my journey started when I went to London when I was 16 years old, and I lived there for 4 years as an immigrant. And this was how I could save the money for my studies. And I went back to Brazil and I studied industrial engineering, which I'm very proud of, even though I never worked with engineering. And I could finish all my studies there, done an MBA, a Stanford course. And I spent most of my career in big corporates, mainly telecom and IT companies, working in sales, operations. And then I had my first experience in a startup, in a Brazilian fintech. Actually, it's a German fintech present in Brazil, in which I led the main acquisition channel. And I'm here at Huspy for 1.5 years now. It was the craziest and more exciting journey of my life. I started as a channel leader. Then I used to lead the mortgage business unit, which was 80% of Huspy's revenue and all of that Jad is already used to sell. But now I'm leading real estate for the last 2 weeks, hopefully to write a new chapter there for the BU. Very proud. Thank you.
Amazing, thank you. And finally, we have Latifa.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Latifa Bin Haider. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be here, and you both are extremely inspiring. I started my journey in entrepreneurship a few years ago when I was still in university, and started with Mental Health AE alongside my co-founder. And in that journey, I found a passion for entrepreneurship, and specifically social entrepreneurship. So even the other two startups that I have, which is Baytuki, I'll get to, if they don't have a social impact, a positive one, I don't feel very passionate about it. So I believe that you don't have to be restricted to one industry, and that's why at the end of university I started Baytuki. Started with idea on paper, started a few entrepreneurship competitions, and I'm proud to say that I won all of them, and a few honorary awards as well. I started because the number of female investors, when you look at the data, I mean, the increase is, the one you just shared is amazing, but there's still a gap. And I had conversations today with thousands of women to understand why they weren't investing, why they haven't started. And the most common reasons were, first of all, lack of sufficient funds, which is valid, right? Real estate investments aren't the most affordable option out there. When they hear the word investing or real estate or finance, an image of a guy in a suit pops up, and it automatically feels intimidating to enter. And lastly, because of many of them believe that you have to be in that industry to be able to invest. So there is that misconception that also creates this fear, or you know what, maybe I'm gonna avoid it just to stay safe. And in general, women are conditioned to be more risk averse. And I keep telling them that, you know what, it's not as hard as it looks. And I promise that it's easy, and we take them step by step. So through Baytuki, I started because I believe that we can remove all these hurdles from their way, from their path, and get them started in investing so they can have fractions of like real estate. They don't have to own the whole thing. We do everything from A to Z, from sourcing the property, searching for it, to listing it only for our clients to see. Once it's fully funded, we finish all the work from A to Z, distribute the rent on the investors, and then finally, when it comes to the sale, we facilitate. So we tell them that we handhold from A to Z, and the goal is really to empower, educate, and enable women to reach financial prosperity, and it starts with taking your first step. You just have to have the courage. So this is the reason why I started Baytuki, and this is why I love what I do.
Amazing. And I think in all three of those stories, one thing, a common thread is growth and resilience. And in particular, I would love to touch on, Ana, your background in sales especially. It's a male-dominated industry, as are most industries, if we're being honest. But in particular, it's one in which women are quite severely underrepresented on a global scale. How has it been being not only a female in the sales industry, but also a female leader, especially when it gets very tough, you have to hit targets, the pressure is high. How has that helped you grow, and also the experience as well in that environment?
I think there's no perfect recipe for that, but it's all about the balance, to find a good environment and a place that you can be successful and still have fun while you're doing that. And sometimes we forget, we are so worried about being successful and delivering the targets because the pressure is so high, mainly on us, women. But I think what we have to do is, as a leader of a sales team, under a lot of pressure, to set clear targets and clear goals so we know where we are moving towards to provide resources to the team. So we just unblock anything that is preventing them from getting to the goals. And don't forget to celebrate, it's so hard to be in this environment with these targets and start fresh every single month, that we cannot forget to celebrate and create this healthy environment.
I think that's a positive way to look into this. And of course, you started your career in Brazil, in Latin America, and obviously now you're in the MENA region. Has there been a different kind of environment and atmosphere depending on the region? Are there any slight differences between the two?
Yeah, I think Brazil is having these discussions around diversity for so long that I felt it was a bit easier there than here in the Middle East. But I was positively surprised. I felt like Huspy is opening a lot of space for these discussions. I speak about this with Jad very openly, the necessity of having women in leadership and opening space and believing in women, and providing resources as well so we can grow and develop. So I was positively surprised. But yes, we have to discuss and open this topic much more often than we do.
Definitely. As we touched on, we're looking at also on the other side, when we look at female entrepreneurship, we mentioned that the amount of women that are buying properties is probably a lot lower. But then also when we look at female entrepreneurship in general, in the UAE last year, it grew by 68%, which I think is a needle moving forward rather than backwards. And for that, I would love to look at the region and dive into this topic a little bit more with you, Karen, and get a little bit of a feel of what it was like launching Karen Wazen Eyewear, and how has it been being a female for your own business and being challenged by a fashion industry where there is quite a lot of multinational conglomerates, where it's very much a lot of men in suits in boardrooms owning many brands.
I have to say, for me, my journey was, I started off in a good place in a way, but also a place that added some stereotypes, so I had to fight against it. So because my space started from social media, becoming an entrepreneur took a lot of fighting for, because people just saw me as a product of being an influencer. And launching a business was, from people's perspective, either something very easy for me to do because I started off with a platform. So they would just assume that because I'm starting off with reach, then everything else is easy. And I had to fight for making people understand that this process, reach is amazing, but it's definitely not enough. And building a company, it takes so much more than just reach. And also to be respected and valued in the business world as more than just being an influencer. So in every stage, I feel that when you're in the public eye, you're going to have people looking at you in different ways. You're going to have amazing people that support you and that have supported me. But you're also going to have scrutiny. You're going to have people looking at you like you might not deserve what you have, or, judging. And as a mother, I'm sure a lot of you here are working moms, and you know already what it's like to deal with having to leave your children, whether it's for a trip or, just for a work day when your children are sick and you have to be somewhere and your mind is a little bit torn all over the place. The difference with what I do is that I get to hear all the comments and see all the comments. So having to fight being affected or impacted by these comments has also been a process for me as a woman and as a working mom. And which is also why it is super important for me to use my platform to highlight, the possibility of being a working mom, because I think we still have a lot of misconceptions about that in our region. And it's super important to me, the importance of financial, independence. Because I believe with financial independence comes a lot more than, buying a home. It's buying your right to say no when you should. It's buying your right to walk out when you should. And I'm someone who comes from, before meeting my amazing husband, I was in a very, toxic relationship. And I can only imagine if I wasn't able to walk out of that. Thank God at the time I had the support of my parents, but I'm only imagining if I had ended up with a person like that and I wasn't able myself to walk out of that relationship because I was financially independent, I can only imagine the hell that I would be living, which is why I will continue to use my platform to highlight the importance of financial independence, the importance of, being able to make your own decisions and to own, woman-owned, to be an owner, really.
Amazing. And I would love to know, you've been in the digital space and within the social media industry for quite a while now. You have a very strong grasp of it all. How have you seen the industry change? Has it been a positive influence on maybe that kind of encouragement and seeing other women succeed and being a more of a women support women kind of environment?
I think I would see a little bit more of both sides of the coin. So I definitely do see a lot more, the narrative of women supporting women. I see a lot more of the narrative of inclusivity. And I think this is super important for the younger generation. But I also see on the other side of it, I see a lot of pressure to race. You were just talking about how we're so consumed with succeeding, we're so consumed with seeing other people succeeding that we're constantly feeling like we're racing instead of really taking a step back, breathing, celebrating the important moments without, and I'm talking to myself here, by the way, because I'm the kind of person as well, after I reach a milestone, I'm very happy, but I'm happy for a minute because I'm like, okay, now what's next? Instead of, celebrating what we've just achieved. So I think this could also come from the space of social media, from being exposed to so much. And also, I think the conversation of mental health, while we're so exposed today to the importance of taking care of our mental health, and we know how drastic not taking care of our mental health could be, but at the same time, I think social media could impact mental health, not necessarily in the best ways. So I think it's super important to educate the consumer on what to take in, on what to block out, on what to focus on. And this is going to come, I think, especially with the younger generation, it's going to come with a lot of education, I would say.
Sana, if you allow me to just add a comment here, building on what Karen just said, I think it's very hard for us to seek for this validation when we actually achieve something. I feel that it always comes with a but. This person is very successful, but this girl knew someone before, or she had the reach before, or it's a freaking great achievement, Can we just remove the but and just celebrate the achievement, It's very inspiring, your story.
Yes. And we look at women supporting women. I'd love to go back to the Baytuki story and really get a feel of how has it been received amongst Emirati women and women in the UAE? Has it been an eye-opener? Has it really kind of opened the doors from your conversations in terms of setting up the foundations of the startup to really feel as if it's already making an impact or changing perceptions in the region?
So, from the thousands of conversations I had with women, specifically about Baytuki, I do have to say that there was a lot of resistance, but not to me or my idea, but rather to them taking that next step. So there are a lot of women who take it upon themselves to say, you know what, I'm going to be the one to kind of pull them out of that and show them that there are so many amazing opportunities out there. So the resistance, from women supporting women is mainly not about the other person, but rather about you. So if you're not taking that first step, you cannot blame everyone else for it. And if you want to take that first step, you should acknowledge what you're going through, and you need to take responsibility and say, okay, I'm going to do that. But how can I get there? And there are so many women who are supportive. If you just ask for just one piece of advice or for help, they could take, if you take one step, they'll take 10 steps towards you to help you. So from my point of view, when it comes to speaking to the my audience or my target market, which is only women, at Baytuki, this is what I see. And it's mainly, I want to, but I can't do that because I don't have experience. Or I want to, but I don't have a stable income. And we tell them it's not monthly installments. You can just pay one time and have a friend. But maybe I have to be this, and that in order to own a piece of the property. And we tell them, no, that's not true. I see it a lot with the stay-at-home moms who don't have a stable income as a salary, perhaps an allowance or they got something from inheritance of, someone from their family passed away or something. So they are sitting on some cash most of the time. They're very smart savers, by the way. Just women in general are very smart savers. But we tell them that saving and investing are not the same thing. And that's a very common misconception. That with saving, you're not doing yourself a favor because of inflation. So are you doing anything with your money to earn? Just leave it somewhere and, earn income on that. While you're working on your other things, just leave it somewhere. So these are the type of conversations that I have, and I see that that sort of resistance is where it's coming from. When it comes to talking to other women who are, entrepreneurs or owners of companies or active investors, not passive investors, you also see a lot of support from their side because they have gone through what you have also gone through. So even at different stages in the journeys, you would see them connecting. I had the pleasure of attending a lot of events this past week because of, International Women's Day, and I met so many inspiring women, and it kind of reminded me that, no, there are amazing people out there, and I'm still at the beginning of my journey because I was like just looking at their journeys, and they're like 10, 20 years ahead. And I was reminded that, you know what, I'm going to get there because they inspired me, because they had such motivating and inspiring stories to share.
That's amazing. I think hearing other people's stories really makes the environment seem a little bit more friendly, a little bit more, there's more potential.
It makes you take a step back kind of and not only see it from your perspective, but go, okay, let me just take a second, take a step back. I need to celebrate what I achieved, and I need to kind of understand that I need to have thicker skin and be more resilient to get to where I want to be.
I do.
I want to just add something on what you're saying. I think it's really incredible what you're doing, and I was, one of these women at some point that had no idea where to start or if that would ever be possible for me, and was super intimidated by that space. And, thankfully, my husband came from the finance background and dealt with a lot of people in that world. And he would constantly tell me, Karen, they're not smarter than you at all. Because I would feel this language, I don't get the language. I come from a psychotherapy background. I had my master's in psychotherapy. I never understood any of the finance terms. And even when I would hear my husband, on the phone doing work calls, it felt like this was very smart talk. This is talk that I will never understand. And he would tell me, not at all. Like, I wish I was doing what you're doing. I wish I had more control over, my journey, my narrative. And they don't know a lot more than you do. If they use big words and big terms, it doesn't mean that they're smarter. And he gave me a lot of the confidence to step into that zone, sit with these people, and it takes, sometimes the support of others or a push from others. So I was lucky to have it within my family, but I think if women don't happen to have that within their family, platforms like yours, conferences like these are very important for women to remind them of the capabilities that they have, and that strength and intelligence and power is not in words, is not in titles. It's, what everyone has to offer. And I truly believe that everyone has something to offer.
Very well said. I actually wanted to bring a question out into the audience, and that is, how many of you here have a managerial or a leadership role in the companies that you're currently in? Could I get a show of hands? Amazing. And from those that have their hands up, I always love a follow-up question. How many of you feel supported to succeed in that leadership or managerial role, that you have the necessary resources to really make that happen? Okay. I'm going to say maybe an 80% hands still up. That's a good, interesting vibe. Of course, Ana, you have been leading 2 BUs here at Huspy, have many years of experience managing teams. How have you seen the support in not only just the discussion about getting women into leadership roles, but really making sure that they succeed and they can be as comfortable as possible and as successful as possible in those roles?
I think, first of all, I have to say that I'm very, very lucky. I feel very supported here. Thank you. Thanks, Nat. Thanks, Jad and Murilo. But I really feel that I have the space that Huspy invests on me. And I think I'm very lucky to be here, but not all the women out there has the same chance. And I think it's a combination of investing and developing and spending time with education as well. But most of, like above all, is to give the chance and opportunity, you know? Sometimes we just have to give the space. And this is what I try to do with my team. I always try to empower the women. I spend time and I put effort trying to hire women for my leadership positions. And I had this discussion many times with Jad. If we optimize for speed, it's always easier to find a man, because like they had so much more opportunities in the past that it's easier to find, right, Daria? You're searching professionals all the time. But if you put the effort and you give the chance and the opportunity, this is how you're going to change the scenario. And when we look up, we're going to see a lot of inspiring women in the leadership.
I just want to add on to what you said about women in real leadership. If it's just something I always say, that if 50%, give or take, of the population is women, then wouldn't it make sense to reflect that in leadership positions as well? Because women and men bring different things to the table. And I keep saying we're not the same. We don't compete. We complement each other. So having the diversity is actually only going to strengthen your entity, your company. So why is it that some companies or sometimes men or women in leadership positions have this what's a nice word to say it? Have this sort of resistance to having more women enter or be in leadership positions. And, it can really only serve you. Like, what's the worst that can happen? If anything, you'll have different perspectives. Sometimes you're going to feel like it's clashing, but that's not really what it is. And I can promise, and I'm just saying I leverage my position at Baytuki as well to speak to those women. And I know that I have insights to how these women think and feel about investing or their money management skills than if a man were to have the conversation, because there was this relatability. It felt like, you know what, I can ask and I'm not going to feel judged, because, like I said, a lot of them, when they hear the word investing or real estate or something, they go, oh no, this is for men, I'm scared, or I don't know this. But it's not as hard as it sounds. It's not as, I promise, it's not complicated. It's just that you need to meet the right people. So we just keep saying that if you're in leadership positions, please do take this extra step to support the women around. And let's say this person doesn't have enough background, maybe with some training, especially if you're in a position where you can afford it at your company. If there's a little bit of training, they can bring a lot of value, but a lot of times they're just not given the chance or the opportunity.
Karen, I'd love to pass it over to you. Of course, you and your husband founded Key Partners about 5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. How has that shaped you and evolved you as a businesswoman, that experience in being in touch with different entrepreneurs in the region and beyond?
I'm going to start, before answering this question, talking about why we launched Key Partners. So my husband and I have been investing for, like you said, over 5 years, but it wasn't until last year that we launched the platform and publicly. And that was because during lockdown, I was witnessing, as we all were, a very tough time on small businesses. And the fact that I had, this platform and this reach, I felt somewhat a responsibility to throw in a helping hand to those businesses that were, struggling. And I launched this really organic initiative called Indoor Voices, which was basically just me lending my platform to small businesses that didn't have that reach. And I remember how incredible the response was from those small businesses and from these young entrepreneurs. They were so grateful that someone was there, supporting them, that they were heard, that they were seen, and that their products and businesses were being heard and seen. And the impact, the positive impact that it had on their businesses made me feel that, this was you asked me before about a defining moment. This was really a defining moment. And this is almost where we were like, you know what? We are investing in companies. Maybe if we make this more public, companies will reach out to us if they believe that we could be of added value to them. And that way we can evaluate as well, obviously internally, if we believe that we have the right skill sets to add value to that company and be a strategic partner. And this is why we launched it. And being a part of the journey of entrepreneurs has been, I have to say, so incredible. We believe that we can, respectively, both of us add value as well, where we're not just, putting in our money and sitting in the back and watching it, but really, truly being invested in the journey, sitting with the founders, trying to understand how we can add value. What is it that we know that, might change something or add perspective in the journey of the founders? And seeing that has truly been incredible. I think as a woman, being able just to say that I'm an investor, it's silly, but I almost feel like I gained respect in different ways, where for me, I was like, I don't believe that term should add any respect to anything that I've been doing. I've been doing, achieving things along, but just adding those kind of male-dominated, words and titles has added the respect from the industry, and I'll take it, I'll take it and do something with it and highlight it and highlight that women can also be in the space. So it's been an incredible journey. I think it's also taught me a lot about how to operate in our business, what kind of risks, those entrepreneurs are taking, that sometimes, when you think of your own business, you feel a little bit more afraid. But when you see it and you hear the way entrepreneurs and founders like Jad, like everyone working in the team, I've seen the speed and the bravery in which you work. This inspires me on a personal level for my own brand. You take it home and you're like, we should do tak like this company does. It works. So, this is how I would say it added.
Amazing. And one last question. I'll start with you, Latifa, but please feel free. Baytuki is quite a young company, and you're quite young. Do you see hope? Do you think it's a hopeful future ahead for women entrepreneurs, women in leadership roles? Do you really think that the needle is moving in a positive direction?
I do see that, and you also yourself shared the statistics. When I first started, I honestly did not see a lot of female founders, but the good thing about having social media platforms, about having people like Karen actually support a lot of entrepreneurs starting out on their journeys, is it gives the others the confidence to start as well. So I try my best to speak about them in events like this on social media, to reach out, and I think a lot of other women are doing the same, and there has been an increase, especially after COVID. The lockdown period had a lot of people sit and reflect and see what the next steps are, and a lot took the step to start their own business. So there has been an increase, and I'm happy to see that. It's not enough, but I do see hope, and I hope the number of women in tech, women in finance also increases, because it's still very little. And for the data on this one is really bad, actually, but the most recent study, I think, was in 2021, where only 2.4% of global venture funds went to female-owned companies. And many, and I heard the stories from the previous events that I was at this week, only got investments because they had male co-founders. So unfortunately, that is the reality of the situation. But with more women taking initiative to support, with more women starting out, they can help others and even invest in those companies. So what's lacking in the region is more angel investors, I would say, specifically female investors. But there is hope for sure. And I see the number increasing. There's in general, we need the push. And sometimes we have it in our families, sometimes we don't. But we can try to go out of our way to find support or to give support.
by nature, but I'm 200% hopeful. I think this is just the start. If you research about the story of how women started voting or driving or doing anything, it started with other women opening the space, you know. And I think like this is the mission of my life, and I'll only stop when this is not a topic anymore, you know. Like there's no point of discussing this anymore because there's no difference. And I think that all the changes start with simple things, and discussions like this will open the way for the future.
You know, the reason I always had issue with the term influencer is because I always felt that it was a term that made me or any influencer feel entitled, and that it comes with almost a negative power, which is something that I don't like, because I truly believe that every single person here is an influencer. Every single person has the power to influence. It doesn't matter if you're influencing one person or 10 people or 1 million people or 10 million people. The impacts and the effects could be the same. Which is why, yes, I do have hope. I do believe that with more forums like these, more conversations like that, with more women noticing the impact and the change that, you know, being financially independent, you know, can have on their lives. Yes, I do believe that you can influence others to do the same, to take a risk, put yourselves out there, to feel confident. I think what's lacking for sure is, you know, the financial literacy for women, which is something that I suffered from. And removing that stigma that it is, like you were saying, Latifa, something that is intimidating, something that we won't know, something that we won't be able to learn. And forgetting, you know, dropping the image of men in suits being more powerful. They're not. So, and I think this is something that we're seeing a lot more. Today you see even male founders wearing sneakers, whereas a couple of years ago that was frowned upon. So we are seeing change. Women, you know, like you are all making a difference. As long as we continue fighting for this and using our voice, we're in the right direction.
I just want to add on to that, and I agree with what you said. It is a lack of financial literacy, and it's not just in the region, it's actually global, which is why even through Baytuki, whenever we talk, we have their info sessions, we don't even start with talking about our services. We start with a little bit of education first about money, and then we talk about them, just to make sure that you have this, you know, a little bit of more background on it, more information before even talking about that. And we also give a lot of free info sessions. They're called Money Talk. So we talk about the history of money. What is money in the first place? Do you know what inflation means? We give some tools to manage your monthly income, because we saw that there is a gap there. And many shared in conversations shared that even if they want to open this topic in the family, they're just told, why are you even worrying about this? It's fine, you know, I'll handle the finances. Sometimes it comes from a good place. It's not that your spouse or father, brothers don't want you to do better and know more, but it's just that I'll take care of it, you don't need to worry about it. But it's not a good thing for me. I need to learn about it. I need to know how to manage my finances. I need to become financially independent, to have a financial identity, especially in today's world. It's just not really serving me to continue trying to just kind of ignore the topic or the importance of knowing about money. But yeah, that is the first step to getting more women to invest or to have a financial identity, is that education. So like Karen said, it's not as intimidating or complicated as it may sound. A few videos, a few info sessions, a few classes are just going to kind of give you that boost, and you're going to realize that you were missing out.
I think one thing that we can take from this is that education is power, and it really puts us in a path to success. Now, I have asked many a question this morning. I would love to open it up to the audience. If anyone here has a question they would like to ask to any of our panelists, please put your hands up and we'll pass the mic over. We'll be a little bit shy. No questions? We've got one here.
Hello. Okay. Firstly, thank you so much for sharing your stories. It was really amazing to hear you speak and super inspiring, all of your journeys. My question is kind of touching on some of the things that you've already said. So, for example, in Karen, you said that influencers have the stereotype in industry. Again, women leaders have a stereotype. Women in the Arab world, women in the region, women in the world have a stereotype. So how do you overcome that in day-to-day, for example, being seen as bossy rather than assertive, being seen as rude rather than being clear? So how do you deal with those like microaggressions that maybe we face in the day-to-day, being women in the workplace or just in society?
If you're asking me, I'm not sure if my answer is going to help, but I would say it's to ignore. I think ignoring has so much power. When you know what you are, you know what you stand for, and you know what you can achieve, I think all of this is so much more powerful than judgment and words of others who don't necessarily know you or don't necessarily know what kind of impact you are making or what kind of dreams you have. They're not part of your journey. You are a part of what you of your own journey. So I think ignoring, it's almost like when a child at school is getting bullied. You tell the child, ignore. You ignore the bully will stop. You give the bully what the bully wants, the bully feeds off of it and continues. So I would just say, this is just noise. Ignore it and continue and prove them wrong by just continuing your own journey.
If I were to add on to that, do you, just to understand better, do you mean, is it when you're dealing with other colleagues in the workplace?
Yeah, that's one example. For example, women are often seen as rude rather than the boss, or like when we're being assertive, it's often called bossy, whereas if a man says the exact same sentence, it's seen as being like empowered.
So some things I would agree with Karen on that you can ignore, but there are situations where you can kind of face it head on. But a lot of the times women tend to become like that because they feel that if they were less feminine, then they would be respected. And what I say is never compromise your femininity if that is how you feel that you are, even at the workplace. What you can do is be assertive, in all politeness for men and women. You don't have to be rude as a boss. When someone starts a convo like that, you can ask them directly, do you feel that this is, you said this to me because I'm a woman? Or is it critical feedback that you have for me? So then it kind of makes the person reflect. If it's critical feedback, then you benefit. If it's not, you tell them that's kind of a you problem. I'm not going to apologize for my behavior. So there are situations where you kind of have to go, why do you think you said something like that? And they kind of reflect on it.
Nothing to
Latifa, you had a really good line about how women and men are not competing but complementary, and women have like inherent characteristics of, maybe potentially being risk averse. So how do you kind of embrace that side in becoming an investor or an entrepreneur and kind of changing the narrative of you succeeding not in spite of being a woman, but because
you are a woman?
Yeah.
So what you need to do first is acknowledge your situation. You need to be very self-aware and admit. So when you continuously ignore what you believe about yourself or what's out there, these kind of like signals are giving you, maybe I should be investing. You don't ignore that. You go like, oh, this is actually, there's a reason why it kind of stuck with me, and it feels like it's something I need to work on. So you sit with yourself, you have a very honest session, and you write down your goals. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What do I want to work on? Because when you write your goals down, you're able to have then an action plan to get to that. So if you say that I'm not able to invest, I want to become an investor and I want to have a portfolio that gives me this, the support and the independence that I need, what is stopping me from getting there? And you write it down very honestly. Maybe it's because I have a toxic partner who makes me feel like I can't get to where I want. Maybe it's because the people in my, surroundings, my friends, family, are not because they have any bad intentions towards you, but they simply don't know any better. So is it because we never have these discussions? Is it because someone is actually making me not start that path? Is it because I don't know enough? So then I need to have, sign up for some courses, ask for some help, go to investors, go to the actual investors and go how did you get started? What do you think I can do? So you first need to have that honest discussion with yourself and then take that plan, take that step. So this step is the hardest part. And it's because you're stepping out of your comfort zone. And that's with anything. If you're afraid of public speaking, you know that you need to go on stage and speak to get over that. If you are scared of investing, you know that you need to invest to get over that. And you need to accept that not everything is going to go right. Maybe some investments are going to fail, some of them are going to succeed, and that's okay. But when you do your research and you're more aware, you're very confident in the step that you're going to take. And find a supportive community. Find ones who understand or have the same goals or are a step ahead of you who can help you. But what I would say is don't kind of ignore the situation or go because I'm a woman, because I'm more risk averse, I'm not going to do anything about it. We were conditioned to kind of settle, and you have to kind of fight against that.
I think just adding on that, I think most people feel that the feeling that women deals the most with is fear, but I think it's guilt. We are guilty if we are successful. We are guilty if we make mistakes. We are guilty if we are not home with the kids. And we are guilty if we are tired and we don't have time to take care of the house. We are guilty of everything. And I think this is the feeling that we have to let go, and then things will start from that.
Thank you so much. Your stories are indeed very inspiring. And I actually had more of a reflection question for all of you. So I'm working in higher education. I'm part of the community engagement department inside university. So I meet on a daily basis with female students, and you could tell they are not all aware of such topics of investing and financial literacy. So how do you envision integrating such topics of investing, financial literacy, real estate even for university and especially for female students? So I don't know if you, Latifa, have any initiatives in place that you're going to different universities to kind of have information sessions on this, or it's more of a reflection question for all of you actually. So
yeah, it is something that we do. But let me ask you, or do you have the power in your position to arrange those sort of sessions?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
That's
then we'll have a discussion afterwards and we can give you a session. So usually we do reach out to government entities, to public and private sectors, and tell them that through Baytuki is willing to give one free session for your employees or for your students to raise awareness about this topic. But it's going to be your job to kind of push them to attend this session. And it's not usually an easy topic to discuss, or if I see the title of the event, maybe I don't want to go to that. I already know that I'm not very good with the money. I don't want to face that reality or feel like, oh, I'm not doing well, because I know very well that I'm not taking care of my money. But it kind of, the incentive has to come from organizations like yourselves to push their employees to attend. But as Baytuki, we do give these info sessions, especially the first one for free, to reach as many women and make them aware or more financially literate. But we have to have a discussion afterwards.
I also think that in... Is it working? Hello? Hello? No? Let me see here. It's not there. I also think that in today's world with the internet, I'm not putting less importance on universities and schools, but I think it's so incredible the amount of education you can get outside of that. In fact, I don't remember half of the stuff I learned in school. I remember things that I learned through life or things that I wanted to actively learn. So I think creating that need for people to want to have that education is more important than integrating it as part of a program. which is why I feel working on that part is super important, letting women understand that this is something that they can benefit so much from, rather than it's a subject that is there. I think schools in general, universities in general, the way and the methods of, the way subjects are being taught don't necessarily make you develop an interest in them, whereas it's more of a checklist, where I feel the importance should come in understanding the importance of learning something like that and the need to learn it.
And unfortunately, there has to be more incentives. So what you can do is, for example, professors can go, okay, if you attend this extra, this session, you can get like 0.5 per bonus. This would bring the students in. So these kind of tiny things do work, but it needs to be from higher positions pushing it down for the benefit of everyone.
Hi, so my question is for working mums. The narrative this year is equity over equality. And how do you guys feel with 45 days, or is it 60 days maternity leave for women? And then we hear things like be an owner, not a renter, hustle, come to work after pushing out a baby after 45 days. How does this all fit into not feeling guilty, trying to do it all when the man didn't push out that baby and doesn't have to come to work after 45 days?
Do you want to start? Am I the only mom here? This is, I think, something that's still, it's still very much in the work, and I think that there is so much more needed in that space. And this is, I think, what is also incredible about being a woman. Whether corporations see it or not, whether men see it or not, we know it. We know what we have to deal with every single day, with putting ourselves out there, with having to leave our children. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the women or the mothers feel a lot more guilt leaving than the men do. I think the problem is with that, with starting with making men feel as responsible for their children than women do. Why is it more of a mom's responsibility than a man's responsibility to be a parent or to be a caregiver? So I think changing that perspective to start is super important. And yes, I do believe that corporations have a lot of responsibility when it comes to that. So they should be pushing, for example, the parental leave, let's say, to be important, because fathers need to understand that they have responsibility with spending time with their children. And yes, they don't deal with our hormones, not just after we give birth, but once a month. I know that I become, someone who's not super sane that time of the month, and I know that this is something that could come into the workspace, but we fight for it. We fight for it all the time. And I don't think that it's necessarily something, I think this is what basically gives us power. So just, having to push through with all of this is what makes women incredible.
Okay.
Battery's gone.
Can I just say something to the leaders and here in the room? Maybe try to take the initiative to create a more inclusive work environment. So historically, men have been, working for the longest time ever before women even started to join the workforce. So the workplace has been optimized to maximize their productivity. But we haven't been in this enough, especially women in leadership, to implement that in the workplace, and we just kind of have to work around and force ourselves to do the same. But if that can be changed, especially for women in leadership who understand what it's like, it is going to increase productivity 100%. But we need that to the work environment to be more inclusive.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Varda. I work at another fintech startup over here called Lean Technologies and Communications. And over there, we have a small women in tech group as well. And one of the discussions that we've been having frequently is that a lot of in these conversations, we talk about how an individual can kind of strive for these leadership positions in tech. But what about on an institutional and a organizational level? What are some of the policies that we can have which really enable women leaders to thrive, and even for women who are starting out their tech careers? What are some of the, for example, your question, what are the policy changes that we can make in which it's not just on the individual for them to go above and beyond to seek these kind of support networks, but for companies to really empower them, for the societal networks to be there as well. If you can share some tidbits on those topics, that would be really helpful.
I think you should start by doing some research first and hear from them what would help them become more productive or feel more valued at the company. And then you can take it from there. It needs to be from the women you are doing this for. You need to hear it from them first. And then you work out strategies and policies that you can do at your company to make sure to meet somewhere in the middle.
Yesterday, we had a chat here with Huspy employees about the same topic. And I think the main thing is to pay attention to the details. So if you have a team made of men only, why is that? What was the reason why a woman could not be there or was not chosen for that position in the first place? And then you can start addressing those issues as like rules and guidelines. But normally we don't put the same burden as we put on the women for like different arrangements because of their household and all of that we put to the men. So I completely agree with what Karen said, that we have to put more responsibility for the paternity as well, and the responsibility that men have over the household as well.
It feels like it's only appropriate to be having these kinds of conversations on 8th of March and the few days around it. So very similar to, the saying, a dog is for life, not just for Christmas. Very similar to, Valentine's Day. No, I want love all year round. What could we be doing as women, as an esteemed panel, to make sure that this conversation is a 365-degree conversation rather than just 1 week of the year?
I would say to continue telling stories. I think this is very important, and I do believe that we have a lack of storytelling, of telling the stories of successful women in our region. So the more we continue to use, whether it's social media or any sort of media, to tell the stories of successful women and the way that women are able to balance and the space that women have in, whether it's governmental roles or leadership roles or in the corporate world or entrepreneurial world, I think the more we continue, the more it will inspire other women continuously to feel that if she can do it, I can do it. But I don't think there are enough stories being told at that level to inspire women daily to, it's like, for example, when I open my Instagram, I don't know about you, but when I open my Instagram and I see somebody working out, it makes me want to work out. So when you hear more stories of women being successful, you're going to feel motivated to, to do it, to push through. So keep telling the stories of successful women, I would say.
I'd like to add on to that and say that if you're a team member or an employee, you can speak up and say, can we have, monthly or a session or a meeting every 2 months scheduled in place, inviting all female employees to speak about this instead of, like you said, just 1 week of the year. The whole point of having this is to also speak to the leaders and the ones in leadership positions to take initiative in their own companies and their own circles. But that's one of them, definitely to share the stories, but also to highlight the challenges. So I got here, but I went through this, this, and that. So how can we make this easier or eliminate them? Then you have an action plan in place.
And stop the competition, and we have to empower other women, and your story can be an inspiration for other people. It's not about your role, your title, or like the amount of challenges that you faced. Everyone has a story that can inspire other people. So tell your story and empower other women.
Awesome. I just have a follow-up question to this, and then I'm going to give to Jad, and we have one more question here. I think, the panel here really shows that there is the strength and vulnerability, right? I think all of you the way that you've opened up and shared your journeys. But there's this thing that women tend to be more humble about our accomplishments. We tend to be our biggest critics, right? Karen, you share very openly in your stories about the trolls that come at you. You're very vulnerable about, what it's like being a mother. You share photos of you crying because there is that struggle, right? Anna, you're an inspiration to all of us at Huspy, yet you're so humble about what you say. Latifa, you show us that age and gender can be no barriers to achieving great things. How do you deal with that inner critic, that voice in your head that's telling you, no, you're not good enough?
Thank you, first of all. I wouldn't necessarily see humility as, it's not something negative. I think humility is essential. I think if men had more humility, it would be, men have egos and, they constantly feel like they need to prove something or, whereas I think, like you're saying from what we're saying, from our conversation here, from a lot of conversations that I have with a lot of amazing, successful women. In fact, if I saw it with less humility, I probably wouldn't feel inspired. I think with humility comes relatability. With humility comes people listening to you and wanting to learn from you. If you're coming in from a more superior space, no one's going to want to listen to you. No one will feel inspired. So I don't see it as being negative towards yourself. Yes, I do believe that women have this kind of what you were saying before, like that but that comes in your head, like, I'm so proud of this, but I have that, but I'm still lacking in that space. And this is where, it's kind of that negative voice in your head, which should be really just shut off and shut down. And I think we all work on these things internally for, growth. But humility, I think, is amazing.
Yeah, it's the but and the guilt, right, of being good or being successful. And I think when we tell our stories in a humble way, we can connect better with other people as well. If you look and you hear a story and it's so far away from you, you think you're never going to get there. But if you just feel like this person is exactly like me, this person faces the same challenges that I face every day, and this person is not perfect.
I would say that I agree with Karen that humility is a very good thing, and it's very important to share your struggles as well as your successes. The other thing is that sometimes that inner critic actually has some valid things to say. So when you hear that, you need to sit down and go, why did I think that? Is it because I'm actually incompetent in this specific thing that I need to work on myself? Or is it something that I hear from outside and it's something I should ignore? So sometimes, some women honestly believe that they didn't get a certain position because they're a woman. But sometimes it's because they're incompetent and they don't want to acknowledge that. So being self-aware and letting go of that ego and being very honest with yourself, why is it that? So even if you get rejected, you can add the same interview towards the end when you feel like it's not going well, khalas, you just go, I feel that this is the situation. Can you give me some critical feedback to help me work on myself? So you need to just be open to rejection and understand why. Because when you know why, you can work on it. But if it's just, no, it's because of my gender, I'm sure that I'm competent. Sometimes you are, sometimes you aren't in that specific role that you want. So the goal is to work towards that. To have an action plan and acknowledge it, have an action plan and work towards it. But, you need to acknowledge that voice and see where it's coming from. If it's this, you work on it. If it's the other one, you ignore it.
I have a question for Ana. First of all, I think Ana is such an inspiration for me. One of the best people leaders I've ever worked with. Strategic, tactical, 360 view, empowering teams. It's such a blessing to show you around. I think one of the biggest strengths that you have is your composure under environments which are very high pressure, which is what we operate under in Huspy. How do you keep it together?
I don't. At least I don't always keep it together. And I just decided to let go the guilt as well. So I try to keep my shit together most of the time. And when I can't, I'm okay with it. And I hope that everything and everybody around me are also okay with it. Okay?
Good morning, everyone. Happy International Women's Day. Thank you so much, Huspy, for having us. It's the first time that I've been part of this, and to this team panel. But I just wanted, if you don't mind, in my humble opinion, just to give a little bit of feedback on the question about mothers and guilt and how do we continue this conversation. One, it's amazing that these kind of things are happening, and Dubai has many platforms. I'm here because of a marketing group of females here in Dubai that have added me onto the group. And really, I'm so happy that this community of women are just sharing and really helping. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here today. So there's a lot, and I think that, sign up to those groups, and every day there's a conversation. And so like what the ladies were saying is that keep on the narrative, keep on doing storytelling, but there's a lot. And then second, as a female entrepreneur with my own business here, my brother's invested in my little dream. And I think that it comes back to female guilt of having children. I don't have children. I'm not even there yet, but I've set up this business where I think it's very important that today you look at the company culture, and that's where you decide where you want to be in. I'm coming from a hospitality background where at the age of 21, I'm there working for a top 100 company in the US, and they're coming to me and saying, well, Soraya, by the time you're 32, you'll become a GM of this property. And there I am going, well, that sounds great. I want to be the top of, whatever I'm going to do, I want to be the top of my game. But I was like, well, how many female GMs are there in the world? And they're like, well, 5. And I was like, well, are any of them married? And they're like, well, one of them is. And I was like, well, you're not really selling it to me, right? And then today, fast track, 15 years, you look at it, there's still only a baby breastfeeding room that is like in the building that is supporting women. It's ridiculous. So I think you don't have to have your own business, but I think as female leaders, you can create your own narrative. We are highly emotionally intelligent. Please don't be a bitch, okay? Like we said, don't go down the whole masculine side that we have to prove ourselves. But again, in my business, we're 70% women in our business. The rest, yes, the tech side are men. However, we're 70%, and what I say to our female team, I'm a family business, so everyone's treated like a family. That's our company culture. And I tell them, how long would you like to take off of your maternity leave? Because it's very personal, from one child to the second child. Who cares about the 45 days? You want 6 months? You want to come back to work the next day? It's your decision. Yes, it's more painful for me because as a small business, it means that, but I've built the business in a way that everyone, has similar roles who can help out one another. And I think that in the long term, stick to your core values, really walk the talk, and create a platform that in the long term, you're really supporting women and not just saying, oh, hey, I'm just employing these women, but I think everyone has a part today within the institution of really giving back. So I don't know, but thanks. Sorry. I wanted to just...
Amazing. I think we have 2 more questions and then we'll wrap it up. But I'm going to give it first to the woman.
Hi, thank you so much for everything you guys said. And I absolutely loved what everybody had to say and comment. I kind of want to give some context first before I ask my question. A year and a half ago, I officially started working. And I currently work at a startup. It's a very high pressure environment. So I totally understand the need for us to be fast-paced and to always think about what's coming next, because as soon as you finish something, we're always thinking of the next project. And for me, I've always had this lack of confidence, I would say. It's very fundamental. And right now, in my environment and in the workplace, I feel this fundamental need to make myself feel small because I'm still very young. I'm only 22. And I'm working with people who are 30-year-olds and they have so much experience, and I'm constantly comparing myself to them. And there's also this struggle with accepting praise and also accepting criticism. I think it's a little bit of both. And allowing myself to take that praise and consider it a small win, no matter how small, no matter how big. And, I just would really like to hear from you guys, especially Anna, Karen, and Latifa, like your guys' experience. And I know I say guys, this is something I point out. It's like I'm talking to women, like you women are amazing. So that's just like a self-check. But I would just really like to hear from you, what advice would you have for a 22-year-old who's struggling with her own self-confidence, struggling in the workplace to not only prove herself, but having to work twice as hard, regardless of whether it's my male or my female counterparts, it's mainly just my own, need to succeed and need to be fast. And, there's always, like you said, Karen, on social media, like everything we see is so curated. And it's become toxic to the point where whenever I open Instagram, I kind of know what to expect, and I have to prepare myself mentally in advance. Like, okay, hey, you're gonna see this, you're gonna see that, but like if you compare yourself, like this is self-damage, this is self-criticism. So just avoid that and just focus on yourself. And it's been so hard to focus on my own path, on my own goals, because I feel like I'm always straying away. So if you were to go back, no matter how many years in time, and talk to yourself when you were younger, what's one piece of advice you would have? So yeah, I don't want to keep talking. I want to hear from you now. Thank you.
First, I want you to know how much value lies in you being 22. Every company that I work with, you are exactly their target. They want to know how you think. They want to know how your mind works. You are so much more today in a company by being 22 than you are from having years of experience. Or maybe not more, but you are equally important. So that is something super important for you to know. And I'm telling you this, as a business owner, I care so much about how you think. I care so much about what will trigger a purchase in your mind. Who do you follow? Who do you like? You have a lot of value in your age. 1. 2, once this perspective changes in your mind and you stop looking at your age as being an obstacle, but in fact an added value, everything will change. The perspective that people have of you will change. But if you are seeing this as something that is an obstacle or something that is making you less important or less valuable, you are asking people to look at you in that position. So you need to put that effort in changing. And I'll tell you, as someone who, now I'm 35, but when I started in this industry, people told me I was too young. But guess what? Now they tell me I'm too old. So there's absolutely nothing with age that means anything. It's what you see. It's the value that you are attaching to that age. And trust me, as an outsider, I wish I was 22, and I wish I had, the energy, the hunger, and the passion that a 22-year-old still has. So use this to your advantage, really.
Yeah. Just adding on that, I would say trust the process and respect your own pace. Because each person has their own pace, Like even for myself, my personal story, I dropped school when I was 16 to move and save money so I could go back and study again. And then it took me much longer to graduate than my friends. And we do these comparisons all the time, right? But if I look back, it was actually great for me. I think I went to university later, but when I was a bit more mature, so I made the most out of it, and just like trust the process and your pace, and you're gonna extract the most of it.
Something I learned recently was you don't try to see it in a different way from your own perspective. And I agree with what Karen said, that it's how you shift it or how you see it, and you're extremely valuable. No matter what you think about yourself, they wouldn't have hired you either way, right? So try to, instead of comparing, seeing them as role models or something that you like about each one of them, and ask for advice. So instead of going, oh, they're doing this, okay, I need to learn and do the same. How can you do that? You can ask them and you can work on it. And it's okay to be working a lot at this age. You're building your career, you're making a name for yourself, you're trying to go out there. And it's okay, but when you shift your perspective about it, instead of saying I'm anxious, you say I'm passionate and excited, even that attitude will change. So going into work, looking at your social media, whatever it is, you just accept that this is where you are right now and this is where you want to get to, and you ask for help. It's okay. I think the one thing people are always scared to do is ask for help. It's okay to go to your older colleagues or whoever's in your team and you go like, you know what, you're very inspiring. I want to become like you. You're very skilled at this. Can you tell me how you got here? Or can you mentor me? Can you train me? So don't go in thinking, oh, I'm too young. I don't know enough. That's okay. That is the truth. But how can you become better? And it's at this age, like, it is really where the hunger is. And you want to go in earlier sometimes, you want to learn a little bit more, you want to work overtime. But if it's your passion, you're not going to see it as overtime. You're going to see it as investment in yourself and your growth. So ask for help and try to see this anxiety or belittling yourself, don't do that by the way, as passion. Or, oh, if I see that and it triggered something in me, that means it's something I want to work on. Versus, oh, this is... Because if you don't care about that, or if you don't have that goal, it's not even going to affect you, right? If you see someone in another industry, you're not going to feel anything about that, towards that. But if you see that and you feel that trigger, that means, ooh, this is a spark, I want to work on it. So that's my advice.
Hi, good afternoon. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much for today's talk. I think it's beautiful when women supporting each other. And I had a chance to look after Karen in Instagram, the social media, and the way you express yourself, I think, is so beautiful because you're very much down to the earth, and also people have a chance to look at your family, and even I think the fact that your husband came to support you here is beautiful, and inspires lots of single women in Dubai, where it's very difficult to get relationship, not to settle for less, but have a high standards. So yeah, first of all, thank you very much for that. And my question is that even though we live in 2023, and men say equally treated men and women, still, when you are in some certain industry and you want to express your opinion, let's say you're not happy with something, you think something is unfair, you talk about it, and then men around you say, okay, the drama started again, here she is, right? When man is expressing his opinion, then they say, okay, he's a man of his word, look, he has his own opinion and everything. So my question is that, how do you keep of being still powerful woman and express yourself, express your opinion, but you as a woman, you still want to be treated as something gentle, right? Because you are more sensitive, you're taking things more sensitive. So how do you keep this balance between being a strong woman and doing your business, but still being treated as a gentle creature?
Thank you so much for what you said. This is a good question. Okay, I hope I'm going to be able to deliver this message in the right way. I don't necessarily think that women are more sensitive than men. I think men could be equally sensitive. I think, in fact, the power that women have is that they're able to express or understand or take in that sensitivity, whereas men will block it or keep it in or hide it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it is better than the way a woman would deal with it. So I think, in fact, the fact that we feel so much helps us grow. The fact that we feel so much helps us express how we're feeling and helps us get our way in the end. I personally am super open, for example, using my channels with my vulnerabilities, because I think it is important. I think it is important to express yourself. My sisters that, for example, are, women, but they don't have that ease of expressing themselves or putting themselves out there or explaining very easily what's making them feel a certain way, whether it's negative or positive. This is more like my character is like that, which is why it's very true to myself for me to show up on social media vulnerably or authentically. And I think there is power in that, very honestly. I think you can benefit when you feel. You can grow when you feel. When you say something and people want to see it as drama or whatever it is, this is more their problem. I don't think this is your problem, because you know when you are acting out of emotion or when you are acting out of, something that is your right to speak up about or to talk about. And you are making this decision. The way people want to see it, this is their problem. They might be intimidated by the fact that you can so easily express the way you feel. And that might be something that they're lacking. So let them go and do their dealing with their therapists on how to express themselves or how to deal with drama. This is not your problem.
Can I add on to that? I just want to add, I'm not married, so I don't have the same experience or advice, but I do come from a family where I have 6 brothers and a very, very masculine, strong father. And I looked up to him my whole life. So as a teenager, I was very rebellious, by the way. I was like the loudest person in the room and very angry all the time. And I realized that the communication that has to be between you two, from your side, has to be a lot calmer, because they're quite literal, right? They're not going to read between the lines. You need to say, I want this, or I feel that. Can I get support in it? So when I was always loud and fighting, there was always a clash. Oh my God, I felt so bad for my mom for trying to manage the energies there back then. But then when I started to work on myself, sometimes, you are the one who needs to work on yourself, right? It's them and yourself. But when you start, when you initiate, you will feel that reciprocation. So when I started to kind of speak and not shout, I was heard. And when I said, you know what? You are, for example, you're my father. You are more experienced. You are this. I'm not gonna try to be more in my masculine energy. I'll just be myself, and I'd be like, I'm struggling with this. Can I get this? Or I want to reach this goal. Can you help me with 1, 2, 3? So then there was like this support, and the dynamic completely shifted. He didn't do anything from his side. It was all me. So sometimes you have to take the initiative, and it's just that when you react, or the louder you are, the less you are heard. And sometimes it's valid. Like a lot of us feel some frustration, or I'm not being heard, or we need to be louder, but that does not serve us. So the calmer we are, the more rational we are about our emotions, the more we will be heard. So if I'm saying it in this way versus shouting it at you, where would you feel like you would be listening more? Does that make sense?
Hello, thank you for allowing men to ask questions. It's very inspiring to see your success. It's amazing. I have a question to Latifa about, I understand that you work a lot with changing the mindset of women, but how about changing the mindset of men in the way they treat women? Do you think there's enough awareness, enough movements? That's my question.
So a lot of the time, this is a very good question. The awareness is targeted to the women and not the men. A lot of pressure is put on the women to reach that gender equality, whatever you want to call it. But sometimes it's okay. We can ask the men in our families or in our lives for help, or share with them our stories, or have those initiatives such as we have the International Women's Day. We have some very similar campaigns happening all year round to target something towards the men. We can actually have conversations. Sometimes it would be really nice for the man to initiate and say, you know what? I don't understand what you're going through. Can you tell me how I can help? So that could be a way. And that's something we also tell a lot of the women. Sometimes they go, I want to invest, but my husband's not on board. Can you help me? And we go like, you know what? Let us speak to him. He's welcome to attend one of our events. We'll have a one-on-one with him. Sometimes really it's overprotectiveness, or sometimes maybe it's not even a healthy relationship, but you kind of have to try. And if you kind of address it accordingly, depending on the situation, it will definitely reach that. But sometimes the men can initiate, or sometimes it's try to put less pressure on the women, but rather include the men more. Because like I said, we complement each other, we're not competing, and we need to all help each other. Can I ask some things to the audience? Because we spoke about investing and financial literacy today, how many of you are investors actually? Just by a show of hands. Okay, I'm so happy to see this number. Usually it's a lot less. And how many of you know other women who are like you in your circles? Okay, that's amazing. How many of you did not start because they're scared? Or because they feel like I don't know enough, or similar to the stories that I shared? Or it could be because of lack of sufficient funds, or when I'm like saving after like 30, 40 years, I'll be able to buy my own thing or invest, and you think that you need to have this big budget, yeah? Okay, I just want to say that I hope this conversation did motivate you to kind of get started somewhere. The reason why, we were sharing our stories and the reason why there were all these events in this past week was because I would really love to see the women more active participants in this initiative. Whatever field that you are in, with, be it in finance or even working towards your, bettering yourself or reaching your goals, I hope that after this event, it doesn't go down to what it was and then spikes up again at the next women's event. I hope it stays. And that's something I just wanted to share.
I think that's a perfect note to wrap up today's panel discussion. Once again, thank you so much, Latifa, Ana, and Karen, for joining us today. And as Latifa mentioned, I hope that today's discussion not only inspired, but also inspired action as well beyond the garden here at Huspy. So thank you so much. And of course, please stick around to network.
Thank you.
Thank you.